Recording a video interview is an activity that a number of students and others want to complete. It's a relatively straightforward process, providing you follow a number of steps. In this video, what I want to do is take you through those steps by way of analysing an interview that I conducted with two of my colleagues. The interview took place in my office, and here you can see a number of different things. First of all, you've got Peter Lee on the left, our multimedia technician who's operating the camera. Then you've got myself in the middle who's doing the interview, and then we have our interviewee. The interviewee has just arrived, and we're currently going through the process of signing a video release form. Now, the video release form is a document that you need to have signed, which gives you signed permission to say you can complete the recording and to do the editing. So you can see this is now being explained to the interviewee, the different stages, what's going to happen to the work and so on. And now we're going to get to the stage where we give the interviewee the document for signing. The blue curtains, by the way, in the background are sound curtains, so they will absorb sound and actually keep the sound down. Now what you can see is the video, the interviewee is signing the release document, and this gives us permission then to carry on with the interview. We're now lining the camera up, and you can see here there's a number of different cameras. There's the close-up camera that we're going to use on the left that Peter's using, and then we have a wide camera that you can see here in the foreground. Now the cameras are being lined up to give this close-up of the interviewee, and so what we're doing now is that the interviewee is the person who was recorded first. Okay, so now we're ready to recording, we're all lined up, everything's ready, and I think we're ready to go. This is a piece of the camera that will open, and we've welcomed the guest, and now we're going to the first question. We're going to be talking about your experience as a DTCE student some years ago now. Yeah. So first of all, can I just ask you, can you tell me about your experience of postgraduate study here on the DTCE and at the University of Manchester?
Hello, and thank you for your invite to the interview. I found it really interesting. I'd been... Oh, sorry, I have to start again. I forgot.
Now at this stage, what happens is the interviewee makes an error in what they say. So we say, don't worry about that, we'll just carry on. And we'll start the question again. So we ask the question again.
Tell me about your experiences as a postgraduate student on the MA-DTCE.
I was here some years ago now, and I found it very interesting.
Now you'll notice here I'm sitting back in the chair because Peter told me that I was leaning into the shot, so I'm sitting back so that the framing of the camera on the interviewee will give us the desired picture without me actually breaking into the frame. This is something to check for, because sometimes you get things wandering into the frame when you don't want them.
So when it comes to thinking about the outcomes or benefits as a consequence of the study, would you say work was one of them? Are there any others that you can think of?
I think it was personal development as well. I'd been out of education for a little while, and what I found was everything had become more automated. So it could be simple things like we were doing an assignment. I was used to writing references by hand, whereas now you can look at things like Zotero, and I learnt that whilst on the course to just make life easier for myself.
So it kind of caught you up with
it did, yeah.
Okay, we've got about 100 and something students on the current cohort. Now, based on your experience, what advice are you able to pass on to them to help with their current postgraduate studies?
I'd say give everything a go, do wider reading, and also watch lots of, and it's a really, really good way, is just look at lots of YouTube. See what you think worked well, what didn't work well, and just enjoy yourself, because this is the only opportunity you're probably going to get to do something that you can do to your own specifications rather than someone else telling you what you need to do.
Okay, well thank you for those responses. What we'll do is we'll edit this and I'll let you see the results.
Okay.
We'll make it available to the DTCE students. So I hope you found Claire's responses have helped to your future studies on the programme, and in terms of setting up an interview, you can see what we've done in making this interview. So thank you, Claire, and thank you for watching.
Okay, and that's the interview complete. We've asked our questions, we've thanked our guests at the end, and we've got the outro. Now what you see happening now is Peter is moving the camera to get a close-up on the interviewee, me in this case. We're only using 2 cameras, and ideally we would use 3 in a multi-camera setup, but we've just got 2. We've got the wide that stays on all the time, and now Peter is lining up with a close-up on me. You'll notice here that the audio as well is all going into that one camera that Peter's using. So the interviewee is on a radio microphone and I'm on a cable microphone. So now Peter has actually lined up the camera, and all I do now is ask the questions again. The interviewee doesn't answer them. I just ask the questions, and so we get the questions that we can then edit into the finished version of the interview when we've recorded everything.
Is there any advice you think you can give to our current cohort of students based on your own experiences that might help them with their studies? How's that?
And that was it. That's the 8 questions asked. So now we've got the interviewee's answer, we have the questions asked to camera, and now we just have one more thing, and these are called noddies. Noddies are used to in the interview to acknowledge what someone's saying, and we edit them in later. So it's a strange thing to record, just somebody looking at the camera and nodding, but then they're edited into the interview at a later stage so that it looks as though the interviewee is listening in real time to what the interviewee is saying, and they're nodding in acknowledgement.
Got a few to choose from.
So now we have the noddies recorded, everything that we need is recorded on the video. We can now take the recording, check it for the audio, check the pictures before we finish, and then once we've done that, everything is then disassembled, the cameras are turned off, the equipment put away, and the recordings are taken into the edit. So now we've completed the interview, we've got the recordings we wanted, we've got the close-up of the interviewee answering the questions, the close-up of the interviewer asking the questions, and then we also have the noddies to edit in at a later stage. Plus we also have the wide shot that's been running on the camera all the time. So now let's see what the finished edited version of this interview actually looks like.
Hello and welcome to this short interview with my colleague and former student Claire. Thank you for coming, Claire. We're going to be talking about your experience as a DTCE student some years ago now.
Yeah.
So first of all, can you tell me about your experience as a postgraduate student here at the University of Manchester?
I was here some years ago now, and I found it very, very interesting, and that my personal experience was, having studied elsewhere and come to the University of Manchester, was that they took a personal interest in your own development, wider than just the actual subject. They seem to actually care about what happened to you afterwards, and how the course you're doing can actually translate into work later on.
So, given your experiences on the DTCE, what would you say the outcomes or the benefits of your study as a PGT student were?
I think it was personal development as well. I'd been out of education for a little while, and what I found was everything had become more automated. So it could be simple things like we were doing an assignment. I was used to writing references by hand, whereas now you can look at things like Zotero, and I learnt that whilst on the course, to just make life easier for myself.
So it kind of caught you up with
it
technology?
It did, yeah.
Okay, we've got about 100 and something students on the current cohort. Mm-hmm. Is there any advice you think you can give to our current cohort of students based on your own experiences that might help them with their studies?
I'd say give everything a go. Do wider reading, and also watch lots of, and it's a really, really good way, is just look at lots of YouTube. See what you think worked well, what didn't work well, and just enjoy yourself, because it's the only opportunity you're probably going to get to do something that you can do to your own specifications rather than someone else telling you what you need to do.
Okay, well, thank you for those responses. I hope you found this short interview of interest and the responses that Claire's given us here today of value to your future studies here on the University of Manchester and on the MA DTCE.